Hello friends, my name is Anurag Jain. I'm developer advocate with Thales. This is the last part of the series, where we are talking about adding compliance to web applications without changing the code. And in this part, we are going to look into Thales CipherTrust Data Protection Gateway, which is the transparent utility or agent. Which is a utility or agent that transparently encrypt your data. So far, what we have done is we have created a couple of applications. One is for the UI and one is for API. And with MongoDB in place, we have launched all these three applications in Docker container. Now we are going to add the fourth Docker container for CipherTrust Data Protection Gateway. And by the way, you can do all these things in Kubernetes or Docker Swarm as well. But I'm using Docker Compose, so that's where I'm going to put another service for data protection gateway, and we will see how we can change our express code to talk to data protection gateway endpoint rather than talking to the API layer directly, so that without you requiring to add any crypto changes, anything to protect or reveal your data, it will be done transparently by this proxy which is sitting in between, right? And we will also see how we can configure CipherTrust Manager to make sure that this data protection gateway is able to protect or reveal the API endpoints that we are using to deal with the sensitive information. So, basically our 8080 URL for credit cards, the get and post endpoints, we would like to see how we can, configure CipherTrust Manager to secure those endpoints. Okay, I did some changes in the Docker Compose file. So I added CipherTrust service. This is the image which is getting pulled from Docker Hub. There are a few things like registration token and the CipherTrust Manager IP and the port, which we will go through. But this is the main piece. So while CipherTrust service will be handling the request, but it will be passing on that request again back to our API service. So, for example, initially we were sending the request from our Express, like API colon 8000 slash credit cards. Now I'm just replaced, I've replaced that API 8000 with CipherTrust 9005 credit cards. So 9005 is coming from this port, and CipherTrust is the service name. So let's go to the CipherTrust Manager. I've already created this application on CipherTrust Manager, so I can quickly show. And I will share the links how you can do that. And I also have a PowerShell script to automate this thing. So I will share all those links, but here I'm just going to show what I've done. So these are the endpoints that we are worried about. So we saw slash credit card, so it's just worried about the endpoint, not the URL itself, right? Not the IP or the FQDN itself. It's just worried about the last endpoint. So for get, we are going to reveal things like CVV, SSN, and card number, right? So we have defined these policies here that okay, my CVV needs to be revealed using a particular access policy, and it was protected using a particular protection policy. So I'm sorry. So these are the three fields that I'm saying that for this endpoint we are trying to reveal. And since it's an array, the data that we get from our service, our backend API, it's an array. So that's why I put this kind of schema, right? And the post again, it's again the similar kind of thing, but in post we are just sending one JSON element, one JSON object. So that's why the card number, CVV, and SSN. And this has to match your the signature of your API. So your API for the post, the one we created, it expects the data with these fields: card number, CVV, and SSN. That's exactly same field that I am specifying here, right? Similarly, when we return the list, we actually return the list of credit cards, which is again card number, CVV, and SSN. That's why I define those JSON parameters as this. So you define the endpoints, you define which particular JSON attribute you want to protect and reveal, and then finally you define the protection policies and the reveal or access policies, right? So if you see here, For CVV, I'm using text protection policy and all encryption access policy. So if we go back to protection policies here, and if we see this, so this is the protection policy that I have defined against that particular field, right? That particular endpoint. I'm saying that for CVV and SSN, the algorithm is for Unicode. I'm giving a particular key with which data will be encrypted or decrypted. Tweak and tweak algorithm. So these are the configurations that you once do on the CipherTrust manager side, and you just need to get the registration token from here and go back to your application, paste the token here, put the CipherTrust manager IP in here, and that's a just with like what we're doing earlier, Docker Compose up. This time, apart from running other containers, like apart from running front end MongoDB and the API container, it will also run the CipherTrust container. And this CipherTrust container, it's going to talk to the CipherTrust manager at this IP or this location with this registration token, and it will pull all the configuration that we have defined for these endpoints, right? So for get credit cards, this is the access policy. For post credit cards, this is the protection policy, right? It will get all those policies, all the keys. It will maintain those things in cache, and any request which is going into the database and getting out of the database will be evaluated against that endpoint and against the policies. So an important piece on the configuration side, so I have created a couple of user sets. So one is uh, like three. So I created one user set which has the user backend. So this user set is going to see the data in masked format. It's not going to backend user is not going to see the data in plain text. That's what I'm defining as a policy. And there should be another data set, sorry, user set, which is going to be plain text user set. So this is where the other user, the username is user here. So that user is going to see everything in plain text, and everyone else who is not who is neither backend nor user, he will see everything. Sorry, just give me a second. He will see everything as encrypted, because we have a catch-all kind of thing that any other user will be seeing the data as encrypted, right? So these are the some of the policies aligned with the username, right? So that's why when we send the request to the backend API, we have to either send the basic authorization header or a JWT kind of header, so that DPG can pull the username out of the request, and then this username will be matched in CipherTrust manager. Okay, this user is part of the plain text group, and plain text group has been configured to display everything in plain text, right? Or if this user is masked kind of user. So let's see. Our services and everything should be up and running. So if I go back to my Visual Studio Code, yeah, it's running. So let's give it a shot. I just made one change to the code. Instead of pointing to the backend API directly, I'm now pointing to the CipherTrust container service, which will evaluate everything, which will apply the encryption or decryption, and then pass on the data to the MongoDB or to the user, right? Depending upon the get or post API. So you don't need to add any kind of algorithm or encryption code in your application code. You need not worry about using weak algorithms or weak keys. It's your security guy who has access to CipherTrust manager. He's the one who is defining all the policies. You just tell him your JSON, you just give him, okay, this is the data we want to protect. With these policies he will create one, and anytime any algorithm gets obsolete, right, NIST comes up with a regulation that, okay, this algorithm should not be used. You don't need to change the code. You just go on CipherTrust manager, change the algorithm over there. DPG will catch that. DPG will DPG goes to CipherTrust manager after every 15 minutes to pull all the updated configuration and update the cache. So in the next cycle it will pick it up. Okay, so let me go to a, website, and this time I'm going to log in with user. I'm going to add data, again some dummy data. Okay, and add data. Okay, let's see what failed here. Looks like our front end app didn't come up completely, and might have to run that again. I didn't save it, I guess. Okay, I'm just quickly checking if there's anything wrong in this. It doesn't look bad, and this looks okay as well. Okay, let's run it, once again, and let me run this application all over again, and add data. It does take a couple of seconds for the first time because it pulls all the policies and everything and puts that in the cache. But now this user, because this is my own data, I'm able to see everything in plain text. Let's go to the backend user and see if there's any difference for him. And that's it. I mean, see, we define the policies that for the credit card number, show everything masked except the last four digits. For CVV and SSN, do the regular encryption and those kind of things. And that's how DPG comes in. So going back to our slideshow, so DPG exactly sits in middle. You send the request from your so DPG is there, or the data protection gateway container is running as a proxy in between. And now, as we see, earlier the same request was going to the API layer, but we now routed the request through the data protection gateway. And data protection gateway, what it was doing in the middle, it was evaluating all the policies, all the incoming requests, and everything, and performing the encryption and reveal kind of operations. So you can see how easy it is. I mean, I didn't add any user based checks. I didn't add things like how to encrypt the data, or how to decrypt the data, or how to unmask the data. You can do a lot of such permutation and combinations through data protection gateway and CipherTrust manager together. And you can see how these policies can be easily defined by the security officer, and you as a programmer need not even worry about it. So I hope you guys really like this series. The idea was to showcase how data protection gateway can ease the security aspect of your application, how you can meet some of the regulations like PCI DSS kind of regulations or GDPR kind of regulations without taking on a course on cryptography or yeah. So if you like our video, please like the video or subscribe to our channel. We would like to hear more in comments. If you have any feedback, anything you would like to see, I will post all the links which I've used in this particular demo. GitHub links, Thales docs where DPG documentation is there. I will put everything in the video description so that you can easily follow along. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on our channel, on the YouTube comments, or on our GitHub comment section. It was really nice talking to you guys. See you again with some other interesting, stuff around security and transparent encryption using Thales CipherTrust. Thank you.